Welcome, everyone, again to another episode of Solar Power Bodies, Voices of Wellness, where we come together to explore the path to achieving holistic well-being and empowering our lives. I'm your host, the triple board certified Dr. T. Mando, and I am thrilled to have you with us today. Our podcast is dedicated to bring you insightful conversations with experts, thought leaders, and inspiring individuals who are making a difference in the world of wellness. From mental health and physical fitness to spiritual growth and personal development, we cover it all to help you thrive in every aspect of your life. So get ready for another enlightening conversation as we dive into coaching techniques and the transformative power of the work that we do. Sit back, relax, and let's get started on this exciting episode of Solar Power Bodies. Today, we have the incredible Adeyemi. He's going to kill me. I know I didn't do it right again. I practiced it, but I think I messed it up. From Jos Plateau, Nigeria. He is a passionate advocate for personal development. He's constantly seeking growth and meaningful connections. And with a keen interest in storytelling and impactful conversations, he's on a mission to create a podcast that stands out, one that inspires, educates, sparks, transforms in the lives of his listeners. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me too. I'm so excited. It's been a while. Somebody else has tried to pronounce my surname, so I'm generally getting used to. But yeah, he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job. So yeah, we're good on that.
Can you give it to us right? Because I like the way you said it.
It's Adeyemi.
Adeyemi. That's right. Adeyemi. I had said IDM me.
Yeah,
Like IDM me, right? IDM me. I just gotta remember that.
Yeah.
IDM me. All right, beautiful. It's a nice, beautiful name. I love the culture, man, and the sound. It just gets my drums beating. Tell us, introduce yourself to the people, man.
Okay, so my name is Daniel Adeyemi. I am a student. I am a personal development coach. I am a podcaster. I am a writer too. I basically revolve around writing content, poetry, articles, and everything that involves writing. I'm basically into all that. But generally, I am a personal development coach and a podcaster too. I love sharing ideas. I love sharing my thoughts. I love sharing perspectives into general idioms and general thoughts that people have. But I think one of my goals is to give a different perspective about it. A lot of times we have a general concept of things, but one of my goals is to show you a different light so that you could see it a different way. It's just like a photographer, stand with the camera, and then he's trying to capture a space, maybe a bird or anything. The difference about that picture would be his angle, right? There's a different angle he might choose to take that will make the picture a little better. So that's where I come in. I give different angles, different takes in perspective or general idioms or concepts of life. So yes.
That's a good way to present that. That is great. That is great. So are you saying, okay, so let me ask you a question. It goes to some quick ones really quickly. What initially sparked your passion for personal development and how has it shaped your journey?
Okay. So I'm going to be honest, maybe a little too honest, but I'm going to be honest. I'm quite lazy. I'm actually quite lazy, you know. And then I think I saw people, right, doing things that I knew I could naturally do, right? And I'm there like, bro, you can do this. Why are you hesitant on these things? And then I figured, oh no, if people are doing what I can do and they are taking it like from here to here, that means I can do better too. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put my head down, read books, learn from thought processes, learn from people, and then just put in the work. I think I first started trying to make my mind better because I know that I can only pass across what I know. If I don't know it, I can't pass the message. And so I tried to, okay, I'm going to listen more, I'm going to learn more, I'm going to read more. So when people listen to me, they'll be able to relate because is it one thing I've learned that people learn is relatable experiences. There's such a thing called relatable experiences that when I tell you something, you can relate to it, right? You can say, this guy gets me, he knows what I'm talking about.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
those kinds of things were how I try to shape my journey to at least get me to where I am now, to be able to speak to people and they actually understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the journey. I think from now, I think for now, that's the journey. I think I started personal development, say maybe a couple of years, maybe 3, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
And and then I figured, you know what, this is a good line, this is a good thought line. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I know
And
that
you're actually in, where are you located? Where you reside right now? Is it called it's, let me say it right, it's Jos Plateau.
it's just plateau.
Jos Plateau, Nigeria,
Plateau. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Is that a big city like Lagos?
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's actually one of the coldest cities in Nigeria. One of the coldest cities in Nigeria.
It's like it's in North Nigeria.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, not, yes. Not
Okay.
Nigeria, yes.
Okay. And so I'm just looking at the culture and the vibe of, wellness, right?
Yes,
And the
yes,
different shades of wellness in the um mental wellness or developmental wellness, right?
yes,
In LA versus Australia versus Europe versus, how does it
yes.
look? Does it, you think it looks the same across the board, or what would
Oh,
be
okay.
different in your
Okay.
application in there in Nigeria as it would be in Florida?
Oh, that's a pretty good question. That's a pretty good question. I haven't necessarily thought about it like this, but I feel like I could share some ideas. So in Nigeria, a lot of persons have what I would like to call a hustling mentality, right? Everybody is trying to make it out alive.
Okay.
Basically, everybody's trying to survive. We are all trying to survive. And, the approach to wellness would be definitely different from Florida because I feel like a lot of times, a lot of persons have things. See, I can't generally tell, but I can tell you that maybe in Florida, a lot of times people might have things that are handed out to them, maybe like on a platter of gold, right? And so the need for wellness is going to be more accepted or acceptable than we in Nigeria, because here you have to work for the things that you need. You have to be the one to put in the work. You have to be the one to show up. You have to always be there. I mean, actively involved, not passively. I mean, you have to be actively involved in those areas of wellness. And so, say you grew up in a community, for instance, here in Nigeria, say you grew up in a community where there's no water, right? Maybe the access to water systems are poor. You know, that mentality of that child is going to be different from somebody in Florida who has water springs, or maybe there's water at all times.
That's
So
correct.
from somebody who is coming from this angle of not seeing water always, he would all I'm sure the person's mind will be, how do I become better? How do I create systems that actually provide water for my neighborhood? So now that thought already in his mind is already shaping his thoughts to living his environment. He might be there maybe one day just envisioning, when will I get out of this? What day will I be able to be the one that is going to say, I'm going to bring boreholes to my systems. I'm going to try to help the little child who doesn't have a way out. So now this thought processes helps this child rather than somebody who is coming from Florida, who has, say, water, he even may has waterfalls. We don't have waterfalls, and that's a lot already. That's a
Mm.
lot already. So now this thought already shapes his mind into becoming better for himself and maybe for his community at large. But now let's look at the flip side on somebody who is in Florida. Somebody who is in Florida who has everything handed to him or her, his passion might not necessarily be for his community, but might be for the world at large. Maybe he's thinking of what do I do for the community that doesn't just stop in a community but that travels out, right? Say his community has everything. Now what he's looking at is what it doesn't have. So he's trying to check, okay, now we have everything. So what don't we have that if we put into work, we can also reach a whole body? Maybe start an NGO, for instance. Say I'm trying to reach, or okay, we can even look at it this way, that the person in Florida, right, tries to help somebody here in Nigeria and says, the guy in Nigeria says, I'm putting out a poll, I'm putting out something. We don't have water in Nigeria. And the guy in Florida, oh, I have a way to get water to you, right? I'm going to start an NGO. Let's try to, make borehole systems. Let's try to give you access to water. Let's try to, put in these things that can actually help the community at large. Now, that's a different mindset if you look at it.
That was heavy. That was heavy, and that's necessary for the world to see and to hear, right? Because it
Yeah,
does not look the same to everybody, and we're not going to reach everyone the same, and we're
yeah,
not all made the same. However, that is wellness, right? You're talking about wellness, right?
yeah,
Mental wellness, physical wellness, environmental wellness, um,
yeah,
household and generational wellness, right? That's
yes,
wellness
yes,
at its highest height. And so it will take, I say this again, wellness and health and healing takes on so many different skins, right? And
yeah,
so many different layers. And this is a voice of wellness. You're being the voice of wellness right now, right?
yeah.
Um, let's go into something else, Daniel. You talked about what sparked your path, your personal development. What do you believe are the biggest obstacles that people face when trying to grow personally and professionally in your community and then at large?
Okay, okay. So I feel one of the, say, I would like to call it one of the greatest obstacles that everybody would face is one, which is the fear of failure. A lot of times people are afraid of failing that they don't try. And so the thought of failing stops trying.
That's
Because
right.
you see, once there's no obstacle in mind, you have the whole goal at large. Once there's nothing that stops you. I think I was reading, I can't necessarily remember the name of the book right now. But okay, I think okay, yeah, it just came to me. Anthony Robbins, Awakening the Giant Within. And so one of the chapters of the book says, if there were no obstacles, if there were no barriers, what will you achieve? And a lot of times we need to think about that if nothing stops me right now, if I have all the money, I have all the resources, what is the largest scale I can reach? And so one of the biggest ideas that affects people is fear of failure. You see, once there's no failing, right? When there's no failing, you know that you can achieve anything. And so for somebody like me from in my community, it's going to be hard because say you have somebody who is doing everything that you're doing and you're wondering, so what do I do now, right? There's somebody doing, okay, for instance, now let's say I'm a public speaker, for instance, right? And then I look at my community and I find out that there are a total plethora of people doing public speaking. Now, that alone already has affected my mind. So if I start, what makes me think that I would be able to meet up with the standards of these people that are actually already doing this? And then, but once I know and once I believe that beyond the failure in general, I believe that I can actually make this work, then
Mm.
I would actually get to my destination.
Mm.
So I think one of the ways is one of the ways is once there's no failure in the mind, it's actually trying. Because you see, all this stems from the mind, right? You see, our minds are the greatest place for discoveries. Once your mind can think about something, right? I mean, fixated on that thing, it will
Mm-hmm.
take goblins to actually stop you from getting it.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. I agree. I coin the phrase, just keep showing up, right? Just
Yeah,
keep
yeah, yeah, that's true.
showing up when you don't feel like it, when your shoulder hurts or your
Yeah,
back or you're tired or it rains or they didn't show or you're the only one showed up, just keep showing up. That determination, that consistency will separate you from the rest. The one thing we can bet on, if I had to be a betting man, and I'm not a betting man, if I was to bet, I would bet that people have a tendency to be, what you said, lazy, right?
yes,
People have a
yes,
tendency to be lazy. That's one thing we can bet on, and we'll win
yeah.
more times than not. So if people have a tendency, the tendency to be lazy, and if I am motivated and inspired, there's planets of difference, right?
Yes,
Planets away,
yes, that's so true.
right?
That's so
And as
true.
long as I wake up every day with that in my mind, that the people are lazy, if I got to do something, I tell my clients, I said, listen, right, you got one, if you took one goal a day, if you reach one small accomplishment a day, that's 30 accomplishments a month, right? Doesn't seem like much,
Oh,
but
oh, yes, yes.
strategize those 30 moves, right? If you were to able, they look at me and they think I'm crazy because I take 10 years worth of work and I do it in 10 weeks, right?
Hmm.
You understand what I mean? Because I know that they're lazy. It looks like 10 years worth of work. It's just that you're not working as hard.
You are not working as hard. Yes,
You're
yes.
not working as hard. And I may be working triple time as well. But it will separate you from what you just said. Everyone's doing the same thing, right? Everybody wants to do the same thing. And we're from a town where it is exactly like you described, right?
Oh wow,
Um,
oh wow.
all chiefs know Indians, right? We all are professionals or the best or striving to be the best at everything. From selling t-shirts, you got to be the best t-shirts. If you we got 1,000 best t-shirt makers. We got
Yes,
1,000
yes.
best gym shoe makers, 1,000 best podcasters, 1,000 best the food trucks, right? And so they're all inching out their own specialties, right? And so there's no collaboration, very little collaboration. If
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and it's more every man for themselves. So this is where you become your own advocate, your own brand, and um, and be as natural with that as possible, right? Be as
Mm,
holistic to yourself, because now we're talking about
mm,
economic recovery, right? To
mm.
yourself, everybody's path isn't the same. It doesn't look the same.
Yes, that's true.
So yeah,
That's true.
so in your bio, you highlight I'm sorry, you talk about your interest in storytelling,
Yeah.
and what role do you think that stories play in inspiring personal growth?
Okay. So children love story, right? You see, one thing I know about children, I'm sorry, I'm taking it from this angle, but you get the rift eventually. So you tell a child, right, that um he is going to be a superhero, right? Maybe he wants to be Superman, or maybe I won't say Ant-Man because he's tiny, but he goes big sometimes. So you tell the child, he wants to be a superhero, and then every day that child thinks of himself. He thinks of himself in that light that I'm going to be a superhero. I have a
Mhm.
superpower. I can fly. Now that thought, right, already shapes his mind into becoming somebody that is going to stand out in the community. So you say a child, right? Same child with that mentality goes into his days or his school or something, and then he sees another child harassing a younger boy. Now, what have you told him? You are a superhero. Now, originally, that thought begins to affect his mind that what would a superhero do in this very moment? Now, in a long run, you've taught that child how to stand up for himself, how to stand up. So what naturally he knows that superhero stands up for others. And so he's already going to go and stop the other bully from why are you bullying the younger child? Well, now this thought, right, helps the man. This thought, sorry, excuse me. Okay, this thought helps the child, or this thought helps us in general, knowing that the power of stories is going to be able to compel an audience, right? If I come to you now and I tell you, hey, I know what you're going through, and I'm able to present to you not just my life, but experiences general of every other person who has gone through the same thing. And I can tell you that these ABC people went through this, right? And then this is what they came out from it. You can put yourself in their shoes and say, if this person can do it, I can do better. Right. So you have, for instance, you have cancer patients now. Now, a cancer patient, say, is in the hospital going through chemo, right? And maybe is about giving up on life. And somebody comes, say a comfort friend, for instance, comes to this cancer patient and says, somebody just like you was sitting on this bed a couple of years ago. Now, the person, you have gotten the person's interest. Okay, what happened? I was here a couple years ago, and I told her that she's going to make it through. I told her that whatever she's going through now isn't the end, right? Now, that person is shaping the other person's mind by giving them light in possibilities of actually making true that chemo. Now, are you saying where the power of storytelling comes, that I can picture something that happened in the past to help you in the present? So
Mm-hmm.
the more you see yourself in my shoes, the more it's better to become.
And
So
so
once you,
stories.
yeah,
Okay. What they do, so in forms of grioting, is that what you mean? Like you like a
so I didn't get,
griot to pass the wisdom through stories,
yes, yes, not
parables and
just past,
stories.
even present too. Yeah, yeah, even just
And then
present
what
stories,
that they
past.
call it is that what word is that in which language, what other languages you speak? I know you speak another, English, and what is it? Igbo,
I think I just
Yoruba,
Yoruba, Yoruba.
Yoruba. Okay,
Yes.
uh that was funny. Um
It's weird.
Question.
You actually said it very nicely. That's, at least you got that right. You said Yoruba very nicely.
Well, I have family there, right? And travel back and forth, and they've left some babies with me, right? And so yeah. Um Listen, what inspired you to create your podcast? Right? You said in your bio, I think it said you aspired to create the podcast that stands out. What type of impact do you hope that podcast or your podcast would have on your audience?
Okay, that's a very beautiful question. That's a very beautiful question. One of my hopes is that I'm actually just able to lend a voice to somebody's life. That when you're starting out your day or ending out your day, you can listen to my voice and your day gets better. You can think about me in different lights. You've never seen me, might never meet me, but my voice through the podcast shapes your everyday life. And to me, that's just beautiful. To know, I mean, somebody right now listening to you might never come to Detroit, might never come to whatever country that you are presently right now, but he wakes up every morning, or she wakes up every morning. I'm not gender specific, so wakes up every morning, right? And listens. And you tell the person, you got this. You can
That's right.
make it out. And then that already shapes the person. Like, this person, I don't know you before, but your words are able to make me me. I feel like every man thrives on other people's experiences. we all thrive on something that we've heard. So it's like these experiences are more like building blocks into our daily lives. And so one of my goals is that when people hear me, when people listen, they would the thought to change, right? That little tingly, inkly feeling that says, do this a certain way, right? That they want to do something bad, they remember, I heard a podcast that says this is wrong.
Mm.
I'm gradually becoming their conscience. I'm gradually becoming their conscience, But the thought that they believe that they can do better because they've heard somebody say they can. The crazy thing about listening to people is that we don't know that the more we listen, the more we are changed.
Mm. That's right.
The more we become like what we've heard. And so one of the gates of man is your ears. There are other gates, but one of the gates of man is your ears. That what you hear always has the ability to change you. So the
Mm.
more you constantly hear, say positive things. I think so. I was reading a book, I think a couple of days back. The title of the book is The Body Keeps the Score, right? And what that, in summary, I'm not done yet, but what that taught me, I think the first few chapters, is that your body is listening.
That's right.
So we need to tell our bodies the right thing. So I think I'm just able to, help people see life in a different way. Like I started by saying how that the angle I will present the same things that they've heard over and over, but giving them a different perspective, it just does it for me. And
So
to
when you
me,
look
that
at
makes
when
more.
you look at um, do you incorporate, is it more of personal development and life, like coach development? Does that, what areas of life are you most focused on
Involved.
in their hierarchy? What's most
Okay.
important?
Okay. So first of all, I basically talk about the spiritual aspect of life. Every man has what he worships, right? And then I worship God. So I first of all I talk about the spiritual aspect of life. And then now from that aspect, I'm able to coin this into different areas. So there are days where I'm talking about relationship, right? But generally, so I don't just talk about relationship plain, but I talk about how that affects you too as a person, right? The kind of relationships you keep, the kinds of people you talk to, the kind of company you have, the kind of circle you're in. So I take that. There are days I'm talking about relationship. There are days where I'm doing poetry, right? So there are days where I set aside, say Saturdays, for instance, I say today is poetry evening, and I talk about poetry, pieces that I've written. So not unrelated, but I've written well over 200 pieces of poetry. I think well
That's
over
mental
200.
wellness.
And so yes, yes, yes. So I'm able to, help you see life. So that, because one thing I know about podcasts is you can't just keep talking all the time and then they are not necessarily getting what you're saying. So there are days where they have to it has to be exciting for them to actually listen, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot that people actually sit down to listen to you. I
Mhm.
mean, they have busy schedules, right? They have busy days, but they are just focused. Say your podcast
Mhm.
is 30 minutes, for instance, that they can sit down for 30 minutes non-stop, just listening. Why? Because you
Mhm.
bring different angles, different perspectives, different ideologies, different idioms that just helps them think differently. And so one of the angles I come through is spiritually, then I go through relationship, then there is a motivational speeches, you know, just everything that makes demand.
Do you feel that you have a greater influence or effect in your community or your locals, or abroad?
A very good question too. Yes, I do. I do. I don't know. Sometimes. I feel like it might just be a God thing, but sometimes I'm able to, when I speak to people, I'm able to catch their attention, right? And then I feel like it started from my ability to want to speak well, that when people hear me, they actually want to listen. You know, it's not enough to know what to say, it's more to know how to say it. So you can have knowledge, but no means of communication. So one of the first things I learned is speaking, communication. So once I was able to learn that, I knew, okay, if I'm going to speak to a number of persons, I should be able to catch their attention. So yes, I've been able to, influence a couple of persons in my community locally and even abroad. I think 2 years ago, I wrote something somewhere, and a woman reached out to me that she was going to broadcast my podcast on her radio station out of the country. And that felt so amazing to me, because at the time I just started writing, and then for somebody to actually listen to what I write or what I wrote at the time and be able to say, I'm going to say this on my radio station, and say I heard this from somebody in Nigeria, and it's going to minister to a lot of persons around. That meant a lot for me. So yes, by attention, I'm able to catch people's attention.
Do you consider what you do as um, what you health and wellness?
Okay. Okay, yeah, in a way, right? In a way, because mental health, mental health is really not what a lot of persons take seriously. I feel like, where I am right now, Nigeria, a lot of persons don't take their mental wellness or mental health seriously, because we always feel like everything goes wrong for us, particularly, you know. And then if I'm able to affect your mind, if I tell you something right now, and then that slight change that tells you, okay, I'm going to do this differently, then I feel like, yes, I've done a great job. So mental health is actually what, in one way, through words, actually, through the things that we say. So that is actually mental healthiness. That somebody is able to picture his life in your words. Somebody is able to say, okay, I'm listening to you, right? And you are reconditioning my brain. My habits are changing. My life is changing because I listen to you. So my mind is affected. So I could give you my thought process, and you pick it, and you're like, okay, I could work with this. I could work with this. And I feel like, yeah, I'm able to do that.
Okay. On your particular podcast, what's the name of your podcast? Tell them how to find your podcast.
Okay. It's weird. How am I forgetting on my podcast? My God, it's strange that I'm forgetting. It's strange that I'm forgetting. Oh my God. Okay, you can find my podcast on Spotify. You can find it Spotify for podcasters, right? Spotify for podcasters. What's the name? What's the name? Why do you know what I'm finding it hard to remember the name, because I did a rebranding recently.
Oh,
Yeah, I did a rebranding recently. I'm looking at it from a
okay. So
different
you're
angle.
you're rebranding now.
Yeah, I'm rebranding now. So like the
Okay.
name hasn't
Okay.
necessarily stuck to my mind.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. 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 I get that. I get that. I get that. Okay. So, how do you choose? How many have you shot so far in the rebranding?
Okay, I think right now I'm well over, say, 10 podcasts. Now I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's 10. Because I feel like if everybody listens to one podcast, say 1 week, or say two podcasts per week, there should be enough juice in there. So it's not just in the number, but in the quality. So I'm taking time to post per week, so that everything I'm doing is focused on that podcast, right? That I'm able to say, okay, you're going to listen. I need your full attention to actually be here. So I'm taking it one step at a time. So I'm focusing all my energy on, say, two podcasts per week. And if I'm able to get that, then I'm okay for the week.
That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. Um, That's great, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Um, when I'm listening to you and to the audience, I'm hearing um, a modality of health care, right?
Mm,
I'm hearing that health and wellness, that mental health and behavioral health. We call it CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy, right? If I can
yeah.
change the way you think about a thing, or I can
Mm,
help you change the way you feel about yourself or think about
yeah.
food, for example, you'll see food differently. And if I can teach you or I can spark you to influence you to think differently about a woman, or a relationship or yourself, right? Um, that's mental health. That's amazing. So, like you said, we use so many forms of media to malaffect, right, the population through negative transmissions, that if we focus on voices of wellness, for example, they'll get to the point where I know where to get a positive word. I know where to go hear some healing, right? And we want to cover
Yes.
everything in health and wellness: women's issues, men's issues, children's issues, economic issues. Um, and hopefully they can hear something that really changes their lives or sparks them. I'm going to ask you, we're going to get to the drill, right? We got the 5 minute drill, right? And
Okay.
you're going to launch 2 or 3 questions at you. Take 60 seconds to answer each one of those. And then we're going to call it an evening. All right. You ready?
Okay. So just unrelated. Can you hear me? Unrelated.
Yeah.
So the name of my podcast is Truth Talks Podcast. Truth Talks.
Truth Talks
Yeah,
podcast.
Truth Talks.
Talk.
Yes, Truth Talks.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's the Truth
Hold it
Talks.
up. Hold it up right there. I'm thinking it's going to be in the drill. It's going to be in the drill. You ready for the drill?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Truth Talks podcast. Tell us what it's about.
Okay, Truth Talks Podcast is about a podcast where I bring to you different ideologies about life and show you different ways to think about it. There's a general misconception about life, and one of the ways I help people is to see it differently. So yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. And where can they find Talks podcast going forward?
So I didn't hear that last question. I'm sorry.
Where can they find you in Truth Talks podcast going forward?
Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters.
Truth Talks podcast. Where can they find you?
Facebook, they can find me on Facebook, they find me on Instagram, they can find me on X, Twitter, that was not named X. On Facebook, it is Daniel Adeyemi, Daniel with a DAH. On Instagram is also Daniel with a DAH. It's DAH because it's easier for people to find because there are like 500 million Daniel Adeyemis online. So I made mine with H so it's easier to find me. So IGDAH Daniel Daniel Adeyemi. Daniel with double L on Facebook is DAH Daniel Adeyemi.
Okay. Um, Advice questions. 2. 1. Listen. The audience is listening. The world is listening. In personal development, what would be your greatest piece of advice that you would give to someone who was struggling to overcome some barriers or to realize their greatest potential? What is the greatest piece of advice you can give them? 60 seconds.
60 seconds. Okay. You're not alone. You're not alone. Everybody has gone through what you're going through. But what changes you is your stance. The more you see what you're going to, the more you can grow through it. So I have this thing where I say we grow through what we go through. So if we can grow through it, we can go through it. So the more we grow through our challenges, the more we can actually get to our destination. So you are not alone, but you need to grow through what you are going through. So yeah.
Heavy. That's a burden. That's a good one. Okay. Um, I think we did it. And one more time, tell the people where they can find Daniel.
Okay, you can find me on Facebook. On Facebook, it is Daniel Adeyemi, Daniel. Adeyemi is Adeyemi. On Instagram, which is IG, it is also Daniel, but Daniel with double L Adeyemi. So you will find me there.
Um, this has been an enlightening conversation, and I
Thank you so much.
appreciate that your perspective on health, on mental wellness, on personal development, on life itself. Um,
Yes,
it's always good to hear how we deal with struggles and obstacles, how we overcome those, and the strategies that we document along the way so that we can share it
yes,
with others, right?
yes,
All over the world. Um, and this is a great part of why I do what I do, because there's no two fingerprints the same, right? And every one of these people have unique and diverse stories and struggles, and they some great stories of perseverance and some endurance. They overcome a lot to become great leaders in their communities, all over ethnicities and nationalities and demographic. And so again, while you say we're not alone, they're not alone in what we're doing. Like you said, you look around and you see that others are doing what you're doing, and you may be a little better at it or much greater at it, but they're far more successful at
yes,
it
yes,
because lazy or
yes.
procrastination or uh,
Lazy, yes.
lack
Procrastination.
confidence, self-confidence, right? Um, but to see that we face that unilaterally, right, across the globe, and to
Mm,
see the different strategies
mm,
that they're using to overcome them, and they're being successful in quite diverse strategies, right? There's not like one size
yes.
fits all. And
Mm,
so it's good that that solar, that power, that empowers, you know,
yes, yes,
the
yes.
people. It's like a burst of light in
Mm,
darkness, right? So
yeah,
to me,
yeah,
that's
that's
solar powered, right? That's solar
that's
power
beautiful.
wellness, right?
That's
Um,
beautiful.
Daniel, Adeyemi, Adeyemi,
Adeyemi.
Adeyemi,
Yeah,
Daniel
yeah, yeah.
Adeyemi.
Yeah, that's
Thank
better.
you, thank you, man. And I'm gonna come back to you because if you don't mind coming back on the show, and
No,
I'll
no,
come
that's
over
fine.
and visit your household too, and
Cool, cool, cool.
let me see what we can do, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
This is how
That's
we
amazing.
empower and solar power each other, and
Yes.
so thank you again for coming onto the solar powered
Thank
bodies,
you so
these
much.
voices of wellness.
Thank you
I
for having me.
I declare that you are indeed a voice of wellness,
Thank
right?
you so much.
It is not artificially inseminated with no antibiotics. You ain't add no
Mm,
preservatives,
yeah,
right? It's just real uncut. This is how we can get there. This is how I can
yeah,
help you get there. This is how we can
yes.
help each other get there. And I think this is a
Yes.
great demonstration of that. Thank you again.
Thank
Um,
you so much.
any
I'm
final
truly
words
honored.
you want to give to people?
All right. So final words. Um, Mr. How do I pronounce your name now? How do I pronounce your name?
I am T Mando for short.
Tim Mandu.
Dr. T Mando.
Mandu.
Doctor.
Okay. All right. So
They just call
Dr.
me
T.
Dr. T though for short.
All right. Okay. I think Dr. T works. So, hey guys, Dr. T is one of the most amazing persons you're going to meet. He teaches on holistic wellness, and he's when I say he's really good at what he does. So you should totally listen to him. He's an amazing person. And from me, I'm super grateful for being here. I love sharing my voice on mental health, on wellness, on personal development. And whatever time you may be listening to us right now, just know, like we've said, that you are not alone, right? you're going to make it through, right? They always say that the light's at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes the light needs to shine in you too. Once the light shines through you, you can get to the end of the tunnel. That's all I have to say.
And that's a solar powered moment, man. I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it. That was a
Thank you,
beautiful
sir.
ending to a great session.
Thank you, sir.
You guys stay tuned. We're coming at you again with another episode of Solar Powered Voices of Wellness. Thank you, Daniel, for
Thank you, sir.
coming. See him again. You guys have a great evening.
All
Peace.
right.